Welcome back to the program. In case you're just joining us, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, the special advisor to the president, is joining me right here at the table. She's also the secretary of the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, what we call PEBEC. Dr. Oduwole, good to have you on the show, and welcome again. It's been quite a while.
Yes, it has.
I think we spoke either before COVID.
Before COVID. I don't think I've been here, yeah.
No, it was after August of 2020,
Kama.
during Kama.
Yes.
Yes,
that was the last time
yes. So how are you doing?
Well, I'm good. Thank you. Always a pleasure to be here, Nancy.
Likewise. Likewise. Good to have you. Now, let's talk about, just give me a general overview. You know, I know PEBEC is 5 years now.
Yeah.
You know, but just give me a general overview of the business environment. You know, now, like I said in my intro, it's tough to do business in Nigeria.
It is.
Uncertainties and all of that. What are the kind of feedbacks you get, you know, just objectively?
Okay, thanks for the question. So PEBEC was formed in July 2016 because obviously it's no gainsaying that it's quite difficult and challenging doing business here. And why is it so difficult? Uncertainties, regulatory bottlenecks, legislative obstacles, and really a lack of coordination. So it's not that no other administration had done things on business climate, but they were more in silos. So the council was set up to bring that coordination, to bring that political will, and to bring a continuity and stability to institutionalized reforms. That is where you see traction. So what I hear from private sector all the time, especially when there's like a policy flip-flop, or there's a new regulation that just comes out, and there wasn't engagement. So people have their business plans, they have their projections, things are just up in the air. And then when they can't get transparency, when they don't know what is required of them, or suddenly it changes, you go to one office, it's suddenly, so those are the things that we systematically work on. We work on people issues, processes, and to some extent infrastructure, because the honorable ministers on the council also have those portfolio: power, transport, works and housing, finance, of course, industry, trade, and investment. So it's a melting pot where we try to tackle you know, decompress and then try to tackle them. But it's not easy at all. It's actually quite challenging to do that.
How have you been working with the ministries? Because you just said ministers now. How have you been working with them? Because some also accused PEBEC at the time of getting into other people's portfolios. So how has the, you know, how has it been? How has it been working with your ministers, or the ministers, rather? It hasn't been
bad. So my boss, His Excellency the Vice President, is known for his collaborative skills. He chairs the PEBEC, he chairs the NEC, and he's also extremely cerebral and yet practical. So he chairs the council, and there are about 13 ministers. There's the head of service, the secretary to the government, the central bank governor, and a representative from private sector, Mr. Dr. Suleiman. So it's sometimes, you know, change is never easy. We relate more with the agency heads and with the line officers. So I have a very young team that are at the airports, at the seaports, they're at CAC, they're talking with stakeholders, and our stakeholders are actually MSMEs. So we're looking for systemic intervention. When I tell larger corporates that they have access to power, so our focus is really, you don't have to know anybody to have, so those are our primary audience that we listen to. We have our reportgov.ng app, so we also get a lot of feedback from that, and then we have our stakeholder engagements, like our national tour that I'm sure you'll ask me about in a few minutes. So we hear a lot of the pain points and the frustration. We also track social media closely. So we hear the tweets, we see the Instagram, people, you know, tag me all the time, tag our Business Made Easy handle all the time. So I believe we have our finger on the pulse on where the shoe is pinching. And so we try to communicate this to the public and civil servants, that what affects them affects you. Because if Port Health, for instance, harasses an investor or takes $100 from them or something, extortion, they have a nasty experience through our airports. Guess what? They go to Ghana and it's like Akwaba, And where is the investment going to be placed? It's targeted at the Nigerian market, but the jobs and the opportunities will go to a neighboring country. So we try to have that honest conversation and to make everybody aware. And it's both ways. Also to make private sector aware that the way they also treat public and civil servants sometimes is not very nice and respectful. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you said this because I've also had some experiences around airports and all of that. I kind of there was a time, I don't know, I've not traveled in a while, but at least early this year you're traveling, you're seeing people, even the immigration officers and co. Oh, madam, they'll be greeting you on endlessly for you to get something. You know, like, and I've spoken to a few of them. You guys are public officers, please. You know, it's not that we can't give you, but, you know, you mirror the nation. So whatever happens there, people think that the rest of us are like that. But let's take a look at PEBEC's initiative. And I want to take a look at it holistically, an assessment in the last 5 years. I know PEBEC celebrated 5 years in December. You graciously invited me, so I was there. Yes. And, you know, I heard what the Vice President was saying and all of that. But speak to me holistically about it, at least in the last 5 years.
So the last 5 years, it's actually almost 6 years. It'll be 6 years in July, but we started operations about October, really. It's been mixed. We've had some really high points. The World Bank Ease of Doing Business rankings, which is based on empirical verification from private sector. We moved up 39 places. We were twice recognized as a top 10 reformer in a 3-year period. Those are things you can't buy in the market. It's hard work that delivers that. Now, people will say, rankings, why are you focused on rankings? We looked at both the perception and the actuality for exactly the reason you said about your airport experience. So globally, investors are looking at the rankings and Nigerian investors also. Now, our real testimonials are from the MSMEs, what they feel. Every reform is created or curated with a tunnel system. We have a brain dump, we listen to all the pain points, and then we start distilling. We look at global best practice, we look at best fit for Nigeria, and then we start this negotiation process with the ministries, departments, and agencies. So if you have 10 steps right now, do you really need the 10? We've always done it this way, madam. Yes, but can we look at what other countries are doing? Does this make sense? And really, our colleagues are ready to listen. So we've had good traction with public and civil servants, especially the more the reform-minded their leadership is, the more we've been able to get done.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's the phrase. The more reform-minded, especially the head is.
Yes, yes, yes.
So the reforms will now trickle down there. Can I have an idea of how many reforms that have been completed since when the 60-day National Action Plan has been created? Because I know you always have 60-day 60-day
accelerators. Yes.
So how many of those reforms have you been able to complete? And just give me an examples of those.
So over the last 5.5 years, inclusive of the NAPS, we've over 160 reforms have been completed. So the National Action Plan is a 60-day accelerator, which we started in 2017. We had 2 that year, but we saw that there was some reform fatigue. So we stuck to having just 1 in Q1 of every year. So we're actually in the middle of one right now, the 7th iteration. And what that is a system where we've negotiated. It's like ready, steady, go. We've had a discussion with our MDA colleagues. We've agreed on what we need to do. And we just set the target. Okay, in the next 60 days, let's push. So things like visa on arrival was one of the reforms implemented. There's several things under automation and process reviews. They're not always things that you may notice immediately, but so for instance, you used to have some sticker at the back of your ticket when you travel domestic. It's not there anymore. Or you don't have to have somebody checking and giving you anymore, because we asked the airport management through FAN, we had them collaborate with the airlines and back-end that. So a lot of things have been back-ended.
Okay, so that's why I don't see that again.
Yes.
And
so that's a PEBEC reform.
And tax
and that took over a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just to take off that sticker.
Yeah, because there was no trust between the airlines and the airport authorities. It's a levy. So the airport authorities claim that the airlines wouldn't pay, and the airlines claim that buying this thing up front and then sticking it is just not. So we were like, how does that become the traveler's problem? You guys sort it out. There's automation, use technology. So finally they were able to come to and it's been working well. So other practical things like that, that in accumulation, it just makes things easier. But you don't necessarily, but we have big ones like the CAMA. That took about 3 years and a whole host of collaboration from the Corporate Affairs Commission to the Ministry of Justice to the Nigerian Bar Association section on business law. About 40 law firms worked on that. The National Assemblies, the Senate's Business Roundtable. So you have a lot of collaboration needed to push things in the right direction. And when that happens, we really get the best for Nigeria.
And that CAMA law was like first time in like 30 years, since
yes.
1990?
Yes, that was a reenactment. There have been very little tweaks, but that was a full repeal and reenactment. And we got some good things in there. Like, yeah, we got quite a few good things in there.
Since the last time you were here, because the last time you were here, we talked about CAMA too.
Yeah.
Have you gotten, because I remember you also told me, okay, this is a law now, the president has signed it. If individuals or businesses think that they can add more, have you heard any kind of feedback to say,
yes.
okay, this one we need to put new things there?
You know, the one thing I've noticed about reforms, and this is across the board, I mean, Nigerians want more, and rightly so. So every time you have a good reform, you get a lot of engagement. How about this? And you get really good ideas. So you get pushback. This isn't really going to work. This wasn't properly thought through. Let's amend this. So we already have a whole, well, not too many, but we have some good amendments that we want to make to the CAMA through our omnibus bill that should be going to the National Assembly soon. Yes.
Okay, so that's an announcement. All right. So
hopefully it's going to PEBEC in another couple of weeks.
Okay, so I asked the question.
Yes.
Fantastic. You talked about the accelerator programs, the national, is it National Accelerator Program or National Action Plan?
Action Plan, yes.
There's a 7.0 now,
yes,
isn't it? What are the priority areas?
So with that, we have an agro-export intervention,
okay,
specifically for agro-exporters that are having a lot of pain points in that area. Then we have an airport intervention because, you know, especially last quarter, we had a number of embarrassing incidents with the airports. And then we have our usual, there's a draft legislation we'd like to complete on insolvency for the CAMA, operationalizing that structure. And we have automation for different agencies that we'd like to put in place. So those are the types of interventions. Of course, we have regulatory reforms that we want to put in place. So those are the buckets, about 5 big buckets.
So what is the difference between this NAP 7.0 and others? Is it just about the different sectors, or it's about attacking those reforms in a different manner?
It's about the determination to complete it within a time frame. So when we leave reforms open-ended, they can just go on and on. You can get excuses. You can get, so when we get the council to approve particular reform interventions be done in a particular time frame, it puts pressure on everybody. It puts pressure on us. It puts pressure on the agencies, the implementing agencies, and we announce it to the public. So it's also very transparent and people can track. The last 2 have not been good at all, but we had, I mean, the first one we finished at 70-something%. We asked for an extension, and we finished at about 84%.
Who rates that?
We track it. We track it. Yeah.
You track it. So who gives you feedback to get the percentages?
Oh, the private sector.
The private sector.
So we validate the reforms. So if for instance, we've been working very closely with a group of agro-exporters. So if you say that your goods can't get through the ports and these are the processes, NXP, different issues, we then start checking, and you know it's broken down. So what it is about the way we work is that we don't just announce, go do this. We're a transformation office, and we work with the ministries, departments, and agencies to break down the steps of the reform. So every week you can essentially see we do a traffic light system. Is it red? Is it amber? Is it ongoing? Or is it green? Has it been completed? And then is it within the time frame? So you can really see who's doing what. And if they have issues, if they have escalations, then we help with taking that up to the head of agency or their line minister or His Excellency the Vice President.
Okay, I'm interested in in knowing more about the two things which you just talked about, which will be some of the priority areas in this National Action Plan 7.0, which is agro-export intervention and the airport intervention. Let's start with the agro-export. What should Nigerians expect? What kind of reforms?
Okay, let me tell you. So we did a deep dive focus groups with agro-exporters. Then we worked with colleagues to look at the processes that were complained about based on what people in that sector said were issues. So payments and verification was a big issue. The inspection process, the terminals and shipping operators, they had issues from that end. And then access and documentation. So those are the specific ones, and then it's all broken down within each. So for instance, if one of the ones that came up was the NXP flow, and that has a number of, you should see the chart, it has a number of agencies involved, and it's really the law. So there's some things that we have to take for legislative reform, but in the interim, how do we deconstruct and make it easier in operation? So how do we get MDAs to work together to streamline things or to layer things on top of each other? We noticed a number of things. I've moved on from NXP now, just in that whole agro-export process that didn't have timelines. So when processes don't have timelines, it can slide, and it's an opportunity for corruption. So there has to be a timeline that is publicly announced, and then the agency has to be responsible for delivering on that.
About the airport intervention?
The airport intervention, well, we've been working with agencies. The airport experience, we had done quite a bit, and we had gone quite far before COVID. I think that whole break set us back quite a bit, and trying to get back to that service quality. There are a number of agencies involved again, huge number of agencies. FAN is sort of the coordinating agency, but there's some budgetary constraints, there's some infrastructure challenges, but I'm pleased to say that the Lagos terminal, I just learned that the Lagos terminal, the new Lagos terminal, should be open next week. So that's huge news. I'm stealing fans' thunder, but I can't help it. Yes, I just pray. I mean, that would be huge. We've got so many issues about the Lagos airport, so many complaints about the Lagos airport. Just the whole experience from the restrooms to the process to the heat to the
no ACs. You come in once you come down. From a foreign airliner, so you just enter the kind of heat. Like what?
I know.
So it's gonna be better now.
By God's grace.
Not by God's grace, Dr.
Jumoke. No, they're working on it. They're working on it. They've announced that they're going to open the new terminal. You see, that Lagos terminal is over 40 years old. So it's been patched. We work with FAN. The chillers are bad. Maybe they'll buy some standing ones. It can't work. It can't do it. The amount of flights. So the volume that the airport, it's like our seaports also, the volume that they were created to cater for is long outgrown, like in the thousands of percentiles. So what they do is sort of palliatives. The escalators are old, trying to make them work. The model probably can't be found anymore. So we need the new terminal. So we've been working on palliatives all the while, waiting for the new terminal. Once the new terminal is open, then they can do serious work on the old terminal, because we actually need all that space.
I had an experience over the holiday. I traveled through the Enugu airport, and you know that time is so jam-packed. Everybody wants to like go to Lagos, or in fact, and I saw the airport authorities struggling because the chairs even at the airport couldn't even contain all of us. They were struggling, and I saw the airport authorities, their boss there just sat down and was observing, said, please just take the video, let us send it to Abuja so that they will know that the chairs are not enough for people, especially when the airport is jam-packed. So things like that.
We've been working very closely with the FAN MD. I must commend him, just trying to look at ways, and the airport managers have been under a lot of pressure. The one in Abuja is really phenomenal, very reform-minded. The one in Lagos works so hard with all the pressures, and also trying to manage all the other agencies, especially the agencies that are armed when they are not armed. And you know, there are turf wars, there's a lot going on. So we need that coordination and then the collaboration because these are Nigerians, two Nigerians, and then it's our national image. So,
compliance with Executive Order 01.
Yes, the first executive order of this administration. We've been tracking it from inception. We released our first compliance report after a year in 2018, and we've released 4 so far. Now, again, speaking to reform-mindedness of the heads of agencies and discipline and consequence management, and really hard work pays off. So there's some agencies that have decided that they want to be transparent and efficient. And they've done a lot in improving their access to information, their websites, their phones being picked up. Those are the kinds of things we check. Their responsiveness, I told you we have the report gov. So those are all transparency. Access to information, is your service level agreement, is it published? All the prices, are they there? Are you adhering to the timelines that you set out for the public? And we track that. They have a monthly report that they send to us in collaboration with Servicom, and also the Office of the Head of Service and the Office of the Secretary to the Government also get copies of that report. So that's what we use for the tracking. And we also do the mystery shopping and the spot checking. So with that, you can see the agencies, you can see the high flyers, you can see the most improved, you can see the ones that maybe their minister will just see some abysmal and say, I never failed an exam in my life. How come we're at 0? What's going on? And then you see that when you track things and you publish them, it matters when you record things empirically. It's not me or my team picking on anybody. This is what it is. So agencies that don't pay attention are usually quite embarrassed, but some of them, the embarrassment fades after the report has been published. But we release the report, and then it's up to also their users, their customers, to make reports, to use report.gov.ng, to document the complaints so that we can know, because we can't really feel the pulse unless we get, not just tweeting and then you vented and it's gone, or a WhatsApp broadcast and it's gone, but actually sending in a report or a letter even, or calling feedback. It does help us to track. So if there's some agency in office, regional office, say in Adamawa, that's giving stakeholders trouble in the region, let's say for instance it's a NAFDAC office or something, we can pinpoint it. If there's information coming and we see that, hey, wait a minute, we have 60% of the complaints for this agency is coming from this office, then we can go investigate what's going on in this regional office, who is the person in charge, what is the process. Sometimes even their bosses in Abuja may not know. So
let's talk about subnational reforms.
Okay.
And I know your office, you do what you call, I think, Lituation series. Listen,
yes.
Please help me
track.
Implement and track.
Yes.
Yeah. And tell me how you're able or to engage governors and those stakeholders and subnationals to make business easy in states, because businesses happen really in the state. They are not only in Lagos and Abuja. Yes,
in the states. No business really happens at federal level. Every business is anchored in a geographical location. So realizing that very quickly, we started partnering with the NEC. PEBEC started partnering with the NEC in 2017. And the governors unanimously agreed to this. So it's a replication of the federal structure, the State Ease of Doing Business Council, a state reform champion, and we had our first iteration of the subnational Ease of Doing Business, our homegrown one, not World Bank or anything, our homegrown one. And with that, we were able to see what was happening in different regions. We also had a pilot cost of compliance report. We used Lagos and FCT to know just there's a cost that isn't taxation that businesses are facing because of regulatory compliance costs, and nobody was really tracking that. So we tracked that and we gave that information to states as well. So what that has done is it's helped states to target and to benchmark, and also there's a peer review. So we've had quite a bit of engagement. There are quite a few states that are quite focused at the Ease of Doing Business intervention that the governors have put.
Which states? I would like to know.
Just
give me
Kaduna is really
or 5.
focused. Kaduna is focused. Enugu has been quite good. Ekiti, I'm going to get into trouble. Of course, Lagos and Kano, who we work very, very closely with. I should stop. Gombe has been really
No, you
engaged.
shouldn't stop. Go ahead.
I could
So
go
the
on
other
and
states
on.
that are down there would also buckle up.
Anambra has been good. Abia has been good. They really moved up. Who else? Sokoto, the governor at one of the NEC meetings, at that time Sokoto was lagging behind in Northwest. They were the last state in Northwest, and he was like, "No, this cannot be." And he just he said, "This is not going to stand." And you should see the number of reforms in the next. In fact, he insisted I come to Sokoto, and I went immediately after COVID, September 2020, and I was really impressed that they had a team, they were structured, they were on their reforms, their tax payment system, a number of things. So it takes political will and a structure. It's not something that you can wish into being. It takes progressive layering,
You have to
reforms,
walk it.
and you can never stop. If you stop, it unravels because it's behavioral change. And if you don't listen to private sector, you're off doing something else while their priority is something else. So it takes a lot of collaboration. Yeah. So
Okay, how about the top MDA performers? Since you've called states and your office works with MDAs, can you just give me like 5?
In terms of report gov or in terms of
being reform-minded and in terms of, yes.
You know one thing, it even changes when the head of agency changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It even changes. There's some that the succession is really good.
But why is it like that? Just like what you said, behavior.
Yes, it is.
It's something that should...
And there's some that maybe the new agency head is settling down and just doesn't prioritize, and it takes like a year or 2 before they're like, oh wait, this was helpful. So we have to keep engaging and speaking. My team has to keep trying to escalate. The reform champions can come under quite a bit of pressure from their colleagues. They're always sort of like internal affairs, like always on their colleagues on this reforms. What's this PEBEC thing all over? But when we have like our PEBEC awards and they're up there with the vice president, then people see that the work actually, hard work pays off.
You've not given me, okay, give me one. You're not going to escape.
Okay.
Give me one MDA.
This is a tough one. You're putting me on the spot, Nancy. I would say that one of my most phenomenal reform-minded heads of agency was the immediate past Comptroller General of the Nigerian Immigration Service.
Okay.
Comptroller General Babandede.
Babandede.
He was really phenomenal. He was really phenomenal.
That's
now we started working with with Acting Comptroller General Idris. We started, but it's now been a few months. He's gone on a mystery shopping himself and all that. But we had a good run with Comptroller General Babandede.
Okay. Yeah. Even as we have about less than 3-4 minutes to the end of the show, there are so many things to ask you. But let me ask you this: which of your focus area is most challenging? Because a lot of people say, okay, Nigeria, the ports.
You've said it.
Okay. So I read your mind. For me, it is really.
Both the seaports and the airports. And the reason is simple, and we've touched on some of them already. It's people issues, it's process issues, it's infrastructure issues, and then it's a lot of agencies involved. So you have at least sort of 7 core agencies in each of them. At the seaports, you have customs, NPA, shippers councils, then you have the terminal operators, you have the concession, it's just the shipping lines themselves, you have the freight forwarders, a lot of stakeholders. And just piecing everything together, making sure that the process works, you need technology. To remove the corruption, only technology would do it. So trying to get a single window in place has been so tough for Nigeria. Other countries have done it. In fact, we're one of the laggards on the West African coast. So that has been a very tough one. The airports also, the infrastructure just is beyond what we are. Okay. We should be a hub. And so with the new airports, we have the Abuja airport, the Port Harcourt airport. It's not like nothing is happening. Even with the seaports, we've had quite traction, reduced the documentation. We have efforts, but we need a lot more collaboration, technological integration, decompressing of processes which need some legislative amendments.
Okay, Dr. Oduwole, You're also moving your reforms to local governments with AMAC as pilot. Can you speak to me about that in like 30 seconds?
AMAC.
The next 30 seconds, compliance. I know there's a compliance of 72-hour timeline for complaint resolution. If you have any issue with any agency, 3 days, 72 hours.
Okay.
So what
that is what PEBEC gave us. It's been tough. It's been tough. Some agencies would do it. They have a team. They're disciplined. They work hard. They work with my team. Some agencies would leave it hanging for weeks, and we're chasing them. So consequence management is a big problem for us. Now, for AMAC, we had so many complaints that we used them as the pilot for engaging with local government level. Here we are in Abuja, and the Minister of FCT wants Abuja to be sort of an ease of doing business hub. We went on radio, and all we could hear about was the task force, the traffic, the road. The whole program was taken over by that. So we put them on ReportGov as well. And in fact, my team is meeting with them today. A lot of issues with AMAC in particular here in Abuja, the TV license, the radio license, the laptop license, taking everybody to court, clogging up the judicial system. We've been trying to engage, but Nigeria, we are a federation. So it's been really tough for the federal government to engage with AMAC, and we can't insist that the council chairman participates or relates.
It has to be persuasion.
Yes. So Nigerians really need to remember that when voting and when holding people accountable, that these things matter, because even the Minister of FCT cannot insist. Yeah. It's not even like states, you hear states battling all the time, like the money to local governments. Maybe states have some, it's not even like that here. So that whole discourse, yes, to whom much is given, much is expected. Yeah.
So I think Dr. Oduwole will leave it at that for now, for today. We'll continue to track and see what happens. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me
today.
It's a pleasure.
All right, I've been speaking with Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, who is the special advisor to President Buhari on the ease of doing business. She's also the secretary of PEBEC. That's PEBEC's office. I also should say there's a World Bank ranking on ease of doing business, but that has been stopped, and it was stopped, I think, last year formally. But the World Bank is saying that they will bring back what they call the Business Enabling Environment B. I saw that some weeks ago. So we hope to see when it is launched. Thank you all for being on the show today. Be the best you can be and be that change that you want to see. I am Nancy Naji. Please join us again tomorrow for another edition, another guest, another topic. I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye now.